It's a crime that shook us all to the core.
A Colorado man gets life in prison for killing his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters.
Trying to stuff your daughter into this little tiny hole is really beyond comprehension.
And shattered the carefully curated image posted online.
Hey guys, I'm here with my little munchkins.
They just seemed like they were like the perfect, happy American family.
You have this middle-aged couple, married, young kids, pregnant wife, and you get to be kind of like a voyeur. You get to peek in.
I mean, you really felt like you were her friend. I mean, she took photos of everything, recorded everything, posted everything.
And all the media in the Watts case to reveal what was really happening behind the scenes.
That's a unique thing that I don't think we've really ever seen before. We were watching everything as it really happened on video.
He didn't normally come out through the garage. Why?
Mind if I come in, Chris?
If you look at his mannerisms, I think there's signs there that there's a lot of frustration.
The real Watts family was not what social media portrayed.
He had spent so much time in front of the camera, to some degree acting.
I just want them back.
It's like, what did I miss? Let's look at it again. Is there something that we're not seeing?
I just want them to come back.
Welcome to Dark Matters, True Crime, the channel where every case drags you deeper into the unknown. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we explore the darkest corners of the human mind.
What if I told you that on the morning of August 13th, 2018, a man stood in front of news cameras, tears in his eyes, begging the public to help find his missing wife and 2 little girls, and that at that very moment, he already knew exactly where they were? What if I told you that the investigators standing just feet away from him, watching him speak, were already picking apart every word, every pause, every blink, because something was deeply, deeply wrong? And what if I told you that buried within the phone calls, the body language, the security camera footage, and the digital trail left behind, the truth was never actually hidden? It was right there, whispering through every crack in the story. This is not just the case of a missing family. This is the story of a man who believed he could perform his way out of the worst act of his life. And for a brief, chilling moment, he almost did. Frederick, Colorado. August 12th, 2018. A Sunday evening that appeared by all outward signs like any other. The Watts family, Chris, his wife Shanann, and their 2 young daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, lived in a quiet neighborhood at 2825 Saratoga Trail. The kind of neighborhood where neighbors wave from driveways, where children ride bikes in the street, where nobody expects anything terrible to happen because nothing terrible ever has. Chris Watts was 33 years old, lean, reserved, described by colleagues as quiet but friendly. He worked as an operator for Anadarko Petroleum, monitoring oil and gas equipment at remote field sites across the Colorado plains. Shanann, 34, was the more visible of the 2. Passionate, determined, openly enthusiastic about her life. She sold wellness products for a company called Level Thrive. She broadcast her world on social media every single day. Her girls. To the outside world, the Watts family looked like a success story, still being written. But the portrait and the private reality had begun to diverge. Shanann had just returned from a work trip to Arizona. She landed late, into the early hours of August 13th. She was 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. They had planned to name Nico. And by every account, from those close to her, she had been sensing something wrong in her marriage for weeks. She came home anyway, pregnant and tired, still hopeful. Chris had been in a relationship with a coworker named Nico since late June of 2018, roughly 6 weeks before this night. He had told her that he and Shanann were already separated, that a divorce was underway, that he was essentially a free man. None of it was true. The call that started everything came the next morning. Nico Atkinson, Shanann's close friend, had been unable to reach her all morning. Shanann had a doctor's appointment scheduled. She never missed contact with the people she cared about. Atkinson called 911 a.m. Last night, she's pregnant and I haven't been able to get hold of her this morning. She won't answer the door. She won't answer phone calls. I'm just really, really concerned. She had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she didn't go to it. I've called him and talked to him, and he said that she went on a play date with her other 2 daughters. But if she went on a play date, they're both in car seats. Why would you not take a car? Atkinson gave the address, 2825 Saratoga Trail. She gave the timeline, she gave the detail that mattered most. The shoes she wears every single day are right inside her door. That was the detail. A woman who never went anywhere without her shoes had left them sitting by the door she never came back through. Shanann Watts was the kind of woman who stayed connected, communicative, reliable, active on social media every single day. She did not disappear without a word. So when calls went unanswered and texts sat without response, Nicole Atkinson did not wait. She drove to the house herself. She found a locked home, Shanann's car in the driveway, and complete silence. She called 911. That one voice refused to ignore the feeling that something was not right. And that voice is what brought law enforcement to 2825 Saratoga Trail before the morning was over. Officers reached Chris Watts by phone. He said he had left for work around 5:15 that morning, that Shanann and the girls were home when he left. That he had not been able to reach her all day, but had not reported anything because he assumed she had gone somewhere with the girls. He came home. And everything that followed would be captured on cameras that would ultimately tell a very different story than the one he was about to perform. When Chris Watts arrived home and met officers outside his house, he knew they were already inside looking around. What followed is one of the most studied pieces of footage to come out of this case. Watch his composure. The question is not whether he appears calm. He does. The question is what kind of calm this is. Free rein. Whatever you gotta do. Officers asked him how long he had been married. So we've been together 8 years. Married 6 this year. They asked about the doorbell camera, whether it would have recorded Shanann leaving with the kids. He confirmed it would have. He confirmed there were no alerts that morning, just Nicole Atkinson arriving at 12:10. Nothing between 1:48 in the morning when Shanann came home and that moment. He mentioned one strange detail. The garage door had been left open after he left for work. But Atkinson said it was shut when she arrived. Officers asked when Chris and Shanann usually use the front door or the garage. He answered without hesitation. Even, controlled, conversational. He answered every question with the tone of a man helping with a chore, not a man whose pregnant wife and 2 children had vanished. Investigators and analysts who later studied this footage noted specific things. His body language showed minimal proxemics, the instinctive way people lean in or reach toward a crisis. The way a parent moves toward the space where their children are supposed to be. Chris did not search. He answered. Inside the house, officers found Shanann's phone, her wedding ring, her ID. Her purse was there. No signs of a disturbance. 2 sets of children's shoes sat near the door. It looked, on the surface, like a home waiting for its family to return. Chris told a story, and every minute that passed made that story harder to believe. Here is something that should stop you cold. When officers asked where he thought his family might be, he offered a suggestion. That Shanann may have gone to a friend's house, perhaps upset after a disagreement they'd had. He was calm when he said it, calm enough that some officers in the room were still treating him as a worried husband. But one detail was already making investigators look twice. Her phone was in the house. Her ID was in the house. Her car was in the driveway. And she had missed a prenatal appointment for a baby she desperately wanted. Who leaves everything behind and simply walks away? While officers were inside the home, Chris received a phone call. It was not family. It was not a friend worried about Shanann. It was Nicole Kessinger. His phone rang. He stepped slightly away to take it. Officers noted this. The body cam captured the shift in posture, the small distance he created, the quiet exchange. Phone records would later show that in the early morning hours of August 13th, during the window in which Shanann and the girls lost their lives, there were communications between Chris and Nicole. Investigators standing in the living room of a home where 3 people had been alive just hours before watched the man they were questioning take a call from the woman who represented the future he had chosen. This is where the digital trail began to close in, and Chris Watts had no way of knowing how much that data already revealed. Hours after police arrived, Chris Watts agreed to speak to a local television reporter. Nobody forced him. He volunteered. He stood on his front porch and spoke to the public about his missing family. He said he loved Shanann. His voice caught at certain points. His eyes moved in ways that on the surface looked like emotion.
You ask questions, but like, I want them wherever they're at. Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. Like, I've exhausted like every friend that I know of, and every friend that I have has called friends that Shanann has that maybe I didn't know about, and it's just like it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. And it's just earth-shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
Chris, when did you learn that they weren't here?
Well, I texted her a few times, called her, I didn't get a response, which that was a little off. And then her friend Nicole showed up about a little afternoon. I could see it on the doorbell camera. And I was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I can't get a hold of Shanann.
And yet something was fundamentally wrong with what people were watching. Behavioral analysts who later studied this interview noted that his emotional displays lacked congruence. The natural alignment between how a person says they feel and how their body reflects it. The voice cracked. His body did not follow. His posture stayed controlled. He managed the emotion rather than being moved by it. He said he just wanted them to come back. Not, I need to find them. Not, please, if anyone knows anything, help me. He wanted them to come back. As though their absence was a choice they had made. As though he was waiting for a return, not searching for a location. Investigators noted this language specifically. Word choice in these moments is not incidental. It is diagnostic. He was not grieving. He was performing. As investigators worked the case, attention turned to Nico Kessinger. She agreed to speak with them. She was 29 years old at the time. Anadarko Petroleum in the same office environment as Chris. Their relationship began in late June of 2018. In her interview with investigators, Kessinger said Chris had told her his marriage was over, that a divorce was underway. She said she did not know Shanann was pregnant. Shanann had announced her pregnancy publicly weeks earlier. Whether that gap means Kessinger genuinely missed it or learned of it earlier than she stated remains a thread many who have followed this case have never fully set aside. What is documented is this. Nico Kessinger cooperated extensively with investigators. She was never charged with any crime in connection with the deaths of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, or Nico. As the hours passed, the inconsistencies in Chris's account multiplied faster than he could manage. He had said Shanann and the girls were home when he left at 5:15. But texts between Shanann and her friend from the night before showed she had arrived home safely, that she had entered the house, that she and Chris had spoken. And then the messages stopped. Not gradually, they stopped. But her phone was in the house. Her wallet was in the house. Her keys were in the house. Her car was in the driveway. No friend had heard from her. No family had heard from her. The idea that a 15-week pregnant woman, upset after an argument, would leave her 2 daughters, her phone, her ID, and everything else, and simply vanish, was not a theory that held up under even basic scrutiny. He maintained he had driven to the Cervi 319 oil field site, performed his checks, and gone about his workday. But when investigators pulled the site access logs and cross-referenced them with the vehicle movement captured on cameras along his route, a very different timeline began to take shape. Something had been in the bed of his truck when he left Saratoga Trail that morning. Cervi 319 was a remote Anadarko field site located approximately 45 minutes northeast of the Watts home on the open plains of Weld County. Industrial equipment. No foot traffic. Chris had been assigned to check on that site on the morning of August 13th. He had the access codes. He knew the property. He had been there before. What investigators discovered through a search of the property would become the most heartbreaking chapter of this entire case. Shanann Watts was found buried in a shallow grave near one of the oil tanks. She was recovered on August 16, 2018. 3 days after Nico Atkinson's 911 call, Bella and Celeste were found submerged inside 2 of the crude oil tanks on the property. Their recovery required specialized response teams, described by first responders as among the most difficult scenes they had ever processed. The unborn baby, Nico, at 15 weeks of development, was not legally classified as a separate victim under Colorado law at the time. A fact that Shanann's family has spoken about publicly and with immense pain. Prosecutors and the Ruzek family have always spoken of 4 lives taken. That framing honors what this loss actually was. On August 15, 2018, 2 days after Shanann's disappearance was reported, Chris Watts was brought in for questioning. He had agreed to a voluntary polygraph examination. He failed it. In the room, investigators told him directly, "So now we need to talk about what actually happened. I feel like you're probably ready to do that. I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise. I can tell from the second you walked in that you were wanting to just come clean. You knew sitting down in that chair that you weren't going to pass today. The issue right now is what happened to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. That's the issue right now." He held on for a while longer. He said he wanted them back home. The investigator pushed back, gently. "But you know they're not coming back home. You know that." "I don't know. I hope they come back home." And then the investigator shifted the angle entirely. She told him everyone described him as a great guy. A good father. A good man. She told him that's exactly what was confusing her. "We're confused as to why you're not taking care of your beautiful children." And in that gap, between the man everyone described and the man in that chair, the first crack appeared. Not the truth, not yet, but a confession of something. "She accused me of it. I denied it. I cheated on her. I hurt her emotionally. I feel absolutely horrible about this." The investigator told him that was the Chris who would come out today. The truth teller. She was right. But it would take longer still. Investigators used a method known as the cognitive interview approach, combined with strategic evidence disclosure, presenting Chris with information incrementally, allowing him to build himself into a corner before revealing what they already knew. The room was quiet. The questions were patient. The pressure was deafening. In the first revised account he gave, Chris claimed he had witnessed Shanann harming the girls, and that in a moment of grief and rage, he had acted against her. Investigators did not believe this account. The evidence did not support it. It was not until a conversation with his own father, Ronnie Watts, that Chris ultimately provided what investigators and the prosecution accepted as a more complete account. He admitted to ending the lives of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste in the early morning hours of August 13, 2018. On November 19, 2018, Chris Watts stood in a Weld County courtroom. Guilty to 9 counts. 3 counts of first-degree murder. 2 counts of first-degree murder of a child. 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy. Counts related to tampering with deceased human bodies. Before the sentence was handed down, the prosecution spoke. What was said in that courtroom carries a weight no scripted words could manufacture. There are no words to adequately describe the unimaginable tragedy that brings us before this court today. The questions that have screamed out to anyone who will listen since August 13th are why and how. Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? I fully expect we will not receive the answers to these questions today, nor will we at any point in the future. The prosecutor described what investigators had reconstructed. Shanann had come home from Arizona at 1:45 in the morning. They had what Chris called an emotional conversation. Shortly after that, the defendant strangled her to death with his own hands. We know that he slowly took her life. If that were the case he tried to describe to agents, you would expect to see vicious bruising, a broken hyoid bone, defensive wounds. None of those are present. Our experts will tell us it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone to death manually with their own hands. The prosecutor then spoke about Bella and Celeste. They both died from smothering. The man seated to my right smothered his daughters. Bella fought back for her life. The frenulum had a 1.5 cm laceration. She bit her tongue multiple times before she died. Celeste had no external injuries at all, but according to the medical examiner, she was smothered nonetheless. The prosecutor described the disposal. He took those little girls and put them through a hatch at the top of an oil tank, 8 inches in diameter. Bella had scratches on her left buttocks from being shoved through this hole. A tuft of blonde hair was found on the edge of one of these hatches. He buried Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave away from the oil tanks. Bella and Celeste were placed in different tanks, so these little girls wouldn't be together in death. And then the prosecutor said the detail that still stops people cold. The defendant told investigators that Bella's tank seemed emptier than Cece's because of the sound that the splashes made. These were his daughters. The prosecutor noted that when his co-workers arrived at the site later that morning, every one of them described him as acting completely normal, a normal workday, while his daughter sank in the oil not far away from him. He was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 84 years. He will spend the rest of his life incarcerated. He entered his plea. He accepted his sentence with the same quality of controlled stillness that had characterized every public moment since August 13th. Shanann's parents, Frank and Sandra Ruzek, were present. Her brother Frankie was present. They had traveled from North Carolina, where Shanann had grown up before building her life in Colorado. They sat in that courtroom and listened to the legal accounting of what had happened to their daughter and their granddaughters. No proceeding, no sentence, no formal reckoning can fully hold what a family loses when something like this happens. Frank and Sandra have continued to speak about Shanann publicly. Not as a victim in a headline, as their daughter. Her laugh, her determination, her devotion to Bella and Celeste. The phone calls that no longer come. The holidays shaped by absence. The grandchildren they cannot watch grow up. Shanann Watts was not a headline. She was a woman who loved fiercely, who documented every moment of joy she could find, who was 15 weeks into a pregnancy she celebrated with open joy. She had survived health challenges that would have slowed many people down. From scratch, she had made a home. She had 2 daughters who, by every account, were the center of her world. Bella was 4 years old enough to have a favorite song, old enough to be remembered specifically. Celeste was 3, full of personality, a toddler with opinions and a presence that filled a room. Nico, at 15 weeks, was wanted. He was named. He was spoken of with hope. He was a reason Shanann had come home. This case asks something that goes beyond the legal proceedings, beyond the behavioral analysis, beyond the timelines and the phone records. It is a question about proximity, about intimacy, about the limits of what we can know about the people who share our beds and our tables and our most private moments. The neighbors at 2825 Saratoga Trail did not know. The colleagues did not know. The people who commented on Shanann's pregnancy announcement did not know. And in many ways, even Shanann herself may not have known the full extent of what the man she married had become capable of. She was worried about her marriage, asking hard questions. But the specific, terrible answer to those questions was not one she could have seen coming. This case does not ask you to live in fear of the people you love. That would be an unfair takeaway from something this rare. What it does ask is attention. The kind of attention Nicole Atkinson paid when something did not feel right and she refused to rationalize it away. It asks you to trust the people in your life who raise their hand and say something is wrong here, even when nothing looks wrong on the surface. Shanann Watts, Bella Watts, Celeste Watts, and Nico, the name Shanann had chosen for the son she would never hold. People who were alive on the evening of August 12, 2018. People who have futures already taking shape. Their names deserve to be spoken. Their story deserves to be told accurately, with the respect they were owed in life and denied in the worst possible way.
Arguments made by the attorneys, the court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family as well as the Watts family that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood, and I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7 as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts to run.
Oh, don't look at Daddy. He's opening his birthday present. He's getting a month of Thrive.
Heck yeah. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I gotta censor this, Bella. You serious?
Ice, ice. The kids are thrilled with your birthday present.
Oh, yeah, definitely wearing this. Are you serious?
Serious.
Hell yeah! Oh my goodness!
Cece got her ice.
June 7th. Oh my goodness, I gotta take that day off and the day after off. Hell yeah!
Chris Watts is currently serving 5 consecutive life terms, without the possibility of parole, at Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin. As a human story, it is something people will keep returning to. Because it does not let us look away easily. Because it does not offer clean answers. Because it asks us questions about ourselves that we do not always want to sit with. Before we go, drop a comment right now. Tell me, where in the world are you watching from? UK, US, Canada, Australia, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Ireland, Jamaica, New Zealand, wherever you are, drop it in the comments. This community is global, and I love every one of you for being here. And while you are down there, tell me which moment in this timeline stayed with you most. Was it the 911 call, the shoes by the door? Was it him taking Kessinger's call while officers searched his house? Was it the front porch interview wanting them to come back rather than searching for them? Was it the prosecutor's words about the splashes in the tank? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Like and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, so you never miss a story like this one. Every case we cover is handled with the same accuracy, the same care for the victims, and the same commitment to telling their story the right way. Not for views. For Shanann, for Bella, for Celeste, for Nico. Ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Share this video if someone needs to hear it. And we will see you in the next one.